Well, hello everyone. This is Brent with Autosport Labs, and I'm doing this live stream to showcase the highly anticipated Podium app. We've been talking about this for a long time, and we have been working on it for a long time, maybe over a year, but who's counting? So, I'll go over a little intro of what the Podium app is and the whole point of it, and then we'll kind of step through some of the core features and then talk about what we have coming up after this. And after this video, we are going to put it into open beta. So we've had a number of beta testers helping us iron out bugs, point out obvious design flaws, critical suggestions, and they have all been very valuable. So thank you so much to the beta testers so far. And once we get this into public beta, then I anticipate we'll be getting a lot more feedback. So you're looking at the home screen, opening screen of the Podium app. But what is the Podium app? Well, a lot of people have been a little confused, and not surprising because we've been focusing so much on the race capture app. The Podium app is a different app than the race capture app. We've built it with the same technology, so it runs cross-platform. It'll run on iOS, Android, OS X, and Windows. We're not going to do a Raspberry Pi version of it because there's no point, but we could if we wanted to. But the whole point of it is to create a way of accessing telemetry data, real-time telemetry data for Podium, as well as making it super easy to look at historical information, look at your friends' laps, compare against those people or anybody else, and have it work elegantly, whether you're on a small form factor like a phone, or if you're on a tablet, or even on the big screen using Windows or OS X. The web version of Podium will always be supported, and that'll be a way of having that as a URL easily linkable, and then we'll be evolving that as well. But kind of like I guess if you look at Instagram is an app forward type of platform where they put the emphasis. All of the functionality is in the app, because in the app you can do a much more rich experience. You have the performance. There's nothing to download every time when you refresh a web page. There's a lot of reasons why we're choosing an app over just enhancing the web view. So we expect that will provide a really cool and exciting and useful interface for Podium going forward. So yes, again, it is not the race capture app. It is its own standalone application, and the target user would be, of course, racers after they're done racing, or for pit crew, or for race fans, race coaches, or anybody who would want to watch or review the telemetry data after the fact or live. So on a small form factor like a phone, you'll be able to do things that weren't possible before. With the web view of the Podium app, you had to run it on a laptop. It wasn't mobile optimized, so you had a laptop in the pits. That worked great in that capacity. But if you wanted to do something like, I want to stand at turn 2 and see what the oil pressure is doing, or see what line they're taking, and then verify that on the phone or whatever, you could pull your phone out of your pocket and look at the telemetry data in real time, just as easily as having a 10 or 12 inch tablet in the pits, or you set up 2 of them side by side or put it on a big screen. You can be at the bar looking at your data with your friends and comparing that. Just pull it out of your pocket. Super easy and convenient. That's the goal of making it easy to use on a small form factor, as well as having the powerful features on a big screen on a laptop if you install it natively on your laptop. All right, so let's give it a little tour after that. And what you're looking at here is your home screen, and when you first connect, you are presented with some quick links to things. I have a Livestream demo here, which we'll dig into in a little bit. This is my stream that's running right at the moment, and if I scroll down, I see some suggested racetracks with the option of looking at more, and then I have some links to some of the events that I have created or have participated in. So this is basically the first thing you see. If you are a user without a streaming device like a Race Capture or Podium Connect, you might download this app and never, you might not have any data live on the system yet. So you are at least able to dig in and access that information and get something that is, have a useful experience right off the bat. So that's the home screen. If I click to my events, so you see a list of my events, and you see the name of the event, who I am, the track that it's at. And if you go over here to click the flag or press the flag, then you can see all of the tracks that I have participated at. Obviously, I don't tour that many tracks around the country, but I've created events throughout the time that I've been using our own system, so you can kind of see all these different tracks. This is a good way to explore different tracks in a system. And as an example, if I select Arizona Motorsports Park, you are taken to the page for viewing tracks, and you can see all of the events at Arizona Motorsports Park. Likewise, if you go to the top and search for like Laguna Seca, then you can see all of the tracks at Laguna Seca, events, and so on. So lots of events, and you could just kind of jump around. You could look at let's see, New Jersey Motorsports Park. You can find the events that way, and so on. So already this is an enhancement on top of the web interface for Podium, and it lets you easily dig into discoverable laps and data on the system. Now if I go back to my events, let's say I have some test data for Sonoma. I select this event, and you can see the 3 competitors that I've loaded. This is test data from just it's one of the events I use on a regular basis for testing. So this is Sonoma. I can click Sonoma and then go back again to the tracks page, so you can see how you can jump around the system quite a bit. If I go to, let's see, if I go to Sonoma and select one of these competitors, I am taken to a dashboard where I can see the laps for this event, and then you see the familiar track map with the speed trace. Now, about 80% of the work in the Podium app has been around revamping the whole set of analysis features in the system. And this is, while we're not done by any means, this is a quantum leap over what you're able to use in either the Podium web interface or in the Race Capture app, which has very limited analysis capabilities, as you may know. One interesting tidbit, you will be able to, in the future, use the same analysis capabilities in the Race Capture app as you see here in the Podium app, because what we've done is we've built the analysis capabilities in a modular way. So what you see here, the analysis capabilities you see here will be upgraded in the Race Capture app. And that will be available in a 2.0 release of the Race Capture app. So we're kind of killing two birds with one stone. They say engineers are inherently lazy, and that's true. So what are we looking at here? So here we have the track map. We have a speed trace. One thing, we can dig into the line chart. So select the customization, and you can see the type of gauge we have is a line chart, and then we can go in and select the channels you want to see. So we can add, I think a good way to contrast speed is by selecting throttle position. So now you can see throttle position along with speed. So this is pretty typical as what you would see with any, you got some squiggly lines on the track. The data is synchronized. As you move the mouse, the track position updates. And then if you zoom the track, the data will follow the trace and with the cursor. And you can also update the splits, so you can get a zoom in on the racetrack, or you can enhance the size of the line chart. Now what you can do also in this view is you can design and update the layout of this dashboard. So let's say if we want to add some analog gauges, let's see, we could do speed, could resize. Interesting fact, these updated round gauges are inspired by the SpaceX telemetry. When you see their live streams, you see their little telemetry indicators in the lower left, and I like the way they're like these clean looking gauges that have this this sweep starting at like 6 o'clock. So kind of emulated that. I think it turned out well. Now these gauges have some neat features which I'll show you when we select a couple of laps. So there you have it. So we have speed, throttle position, and RPM updating. And what's cool is that the framework we use uses OpenGL2. So in a lot of the cases, the graphics updates is nice and fluid and with high frame rate. Now we have line charts, we have track maps, we have round gauges. Now what if I select another lap? What happens to our gauges? Okay, so here's something that's really important with the theme of the Podium app, is that all the gauges are designed to be multidimensional. And what I mean by that is you select 2 laps, and these gauges go into a mode where you see both the data for both laps side by side. This is pretty natural with a line chart because you just have multiple traces. You can just zoom in and you could see the traces for lap 1 throttle position and speed, and lap 2 throttle position and speed. But what do you do with the round gauges? So here you can see that we do the round gauges with these concentric circles. And as you select more laps, the throttle position, the throttle position, speed, and RPM gauges shows the data synced with each lap based on time as you cursor over the chart. You can kind of see the effect with the RPM gauge. So all of our gauges are designed to be multi-dimensional in that sense. I don't know if there's a better word for that, but that's how we do it. And then you can kind of zoom in and see like the two lines for the different laps selected. So unselect those laps. And now what if I want to switch to another gauge type? Well, let's say throttle position might be better with a bar graph. So now we've switched that gauge over to a bar graph. And if I select another channel, then you get two bar graphs stacked on top of each other, lap 4 and lap 5. Oops, lap 4 and lap 2 together. Now you're asking, okay, so what if I want to compare laps from a different session? Well, we can do that too. So now I've brought in data from two different competitors, same event, and now we can compare laps that way just as easily. You can just as easily find another event at Sonoma Raceway, bring that into the list. I can pin this as well. Bring that into the list and compare any laps from any racer from any event, just as easily as comparing the individual laps from the same event. All right, so let's see, what else do we have? We can explore another chart. So we have a histogram chart, and we can look at the distribution of speed across a lap. And you'll notice that the cursor position highlights based on what bucket. If you're familiar with histograms, you'll be able to see what bucket the current cursor position is in that histogram. Another widget we have, and you can see that the way we have this design is that we have the ability to just drop in additional widgets in the future. So we have the histogram, we have the line chart. We're going to skip over the overview for now. The scatter plot, so we have the X, Y. This is a great way of doing a traction circle. So there's your traction circle. Deselect the lap. And there you go. So there's the white trace shows you where it is in the current data set, and the shape of the histogram, if you're familiar with traction circles. Is it a D? Is it a T? Is it just a blob? It kind of tells you how you're using the grip in your car. One thing you can also do is add a heat channel. So say select throttle position, and now you can see the scatter plot, and where it's happening in a scatter plot, you can see how the throttle is being applied. So let's see if I change the channel to throttle position. We go from there, and there you go. So the red is 100% throttle, and you can kind of see it correlated with the gauge. All right. What else do we have? Let me switch to another type of gauge. We have a time gap, which is very familiar. I'm going to remove these extra gauges. So a time gap shows you the the gap of time gained or loss as two laps are being compared. So this is a very common analysis capability. So like you've seen in the web view of Podium, selecting 2 laps, you have 1 lap that's the baseline, and then the compared lap shows you where time is being gained and lost. So that's another important analysis feature. And we won't dig too much into how this, how to actually use a time gap chart, but we can cover that in another web video. So remove that gauge group, get our track map back. And now we will demo a little bit about how these different dashboard pages work. So you've seen these 2 arrows on at the bottom of the screen. If we click these arrows, you can navigate between different dashboard pages. And we'll have the ability for you to create a new dashboard page, give it a name, alter its configuration, and then save that as like a preset. So we don't have that now, but we have some like canned, I think we have 3 dashboard pages, and then one of these, what we call the Freeform dashboard page. So a little demo on the Freeform dashboard page. So in the other dashboard page, you have gauges set in a predictable grid. The Freeform dashboard page lets you put gauges in any orientation and any position on the page. So let's build something. So we have, put the track map up in the corner. Let's do something simple here. And then we're going to do a line chart with speed, like everybody. Why not? So I hope I see something like this in a big screen in the hot pits. Not in the hot pits. Yeah, in the hot pits sometime soon. I'd love to see what you all might design here. So we have line chart with the track map. Let's see if we zoom in on the track map. And let's see, let's add an analog gauge. Oh, what can we do? We could do speed. Add a speed gauge. Let's shrink our line chart a bit. Make the analog gauge nice and big. Shrink down the track map. Add another analog gauge. Oh, what do we got here? RPM, that's fun. Actually, I like creating this nested look, which you're kind of seeing here. And then let's find bar graph with throttle position. Clickety click. Sorry if that clicking is loud. So there we are. There is a little dashboard layout that I put together. Now what we can do is add an overview. This overview gauge is a type of widget that gauge, I should say, that lets you create a way of viewing a whole bunch of car information at a glance. You've probably seen the animated GIFs of this gauge already on a previous post. And I don't have the demo running right now, but you'll be able to see the heat map for the tires, brake rotors, engine temperature, heart rate if you have that set up, transmission temperatures, differential, fuel levels. You can create a giant version of this. Just fill the screen, with a few other bits of information flanking it. So you can pretty much design whatever you'd like. That's kind of why we made this view. I think we counted, and this view, if you have all the sensors loaded up, will visualize 32 channels of data. So you have 16 channels of heat temperature, 4 brake temperatures, a bunch of engine, transmission, drivetrain sensors as well. And with gauges and squiggly lines, that would be the cognitive load of dealing with that. Even engineer types who are familiar with looking at line charts would still find this easier to use. And of course, it would complement another page or another device showing just gauges and squiggly lines if that's what you want. And the system is that flexible, so you can do that. The way you customize this overview gauge is by going into the settings, and you can specify the preset, the prefix for these multi-channel tire temperature and brake temperature gauges, number of tire zones. If you have TPMS or not, if you have engine temperature or not, and so on. So there you are. Let's see where we're at. I have a list of topics to cover. I want to make sure we don't miss anything. Yeah. So this is our Freeform editor. And again, you will be able to create a dashboard page like this, give it a name, save it as a preset, and eventually you'll be able to save it on Podium so that you can create it on one device and pull it down onto another device and possibly share that with other people. All right, let's see if we could take a look at a live stream and see what that looks like. So remove our sessions, go to the live streams, and see what we got. Okay, now if we go in and that's what a live stream looks like, and we can kind of zoom in on the track map so we can see the line taken. So there's nobody racing at Thunderhill right now actually, but I'm just doing a playback of some data from Damien. So thank you, Damien, for the test data. This is playing back at, it's not being played back at any faster rate than normal. It is playing back at 1x speed. So if you, we just had a start-finish change. Okay, there we are. So if you cursor over the position on the map, you can take over temporarily. You can see the line chart's still updating with live data, but if you let go and just let it continue, then it'll just go back to live mode. And let's see. Let's do a split, add some more analog gauges and stuff, and see what we got here. Actually, let's do RPM and do the usual suspects. RPM and speed. And throttle position. let that run for a while. We could switch between views. There's our Freeform dashboard view showing live data. Looks like our channel names for the overview do not match, so that's not a very good demo. But we can follow up with a better demo on how that works. You'll notice that as I come back to the screen, the data jumps, and that's because it's not updating in the back as you're not on that page. Can't tell if that's a feature or a bug, but that's how it is right now. Let's see. I should probably take a look at the live stream and see if anybody has any questions. ASL. Autosport Labs, Gene. You know, it's the household name for what ASL means. Daniel says he likes pie. Well, I like pie too. I'm actually getting kind of hungry. We have some, unfortunately, we have cheesecake waiting downstairs, so that's going to be my dessert tonight. Jason says, Brianna and I are watching. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and Jason has been providing a lot of beta testing feedback in our private beta testing group, so that has been much appreciated. So all the way from like critical, like, hey, this doesn't work, or to the more mundane but super important, the background of the icon doesn't show up well on a dark background on Android. So yeah, those are the things we need to catch early. Speaking of Android, we will have Android as well as iOS support. When we release this, we'll make this available in open beta, and it'll be available on Android first. I believe Amazon App Store now has the ability to do beta testing, and iOS has this thing called Test Flight, where you can send somebody a link. They can opt in and be a beta tester. So what's cool is all of the work we've put into the Race Capture app for doing multi-platform development. I mean, we've been able to just reuse all of that learning and education, and just figuring out how to do these cross-platform apps is just going to translate right across to the Podium app. So we're pretty happy about that. We already have a Windows version, don't have an OS X version yet, and but we should have that as well pretty soon. Jason says, can I sideload Amazon Fire with APK? Yes, we have an APK available that you can put on the Fire. You know, this thing kicks ass on a Fire 10 HD. So the latest Fire 10-inch tablet, it looks good. I mean, it has a great display. It has a fast processor, although Scott Barton told me that they're coming out with an even faster version of the Fire 10-inch tablet, which I will be watching out for. But yeah, it looks great. I mean, I think like setting up a couple of those in the pits, one on each dashboard screen, it's awesome because instead of having your laptop set up, you know how it is, racetracks and laptops don't mix very well. I had my laptop. It's the laptop I use for development. It got blown off the top of a race car, like fell onto pavement and broke the screen. I mean, I was still able to use it the rest of the weekend, but the screen hinge was busted. Racetracks and laptops don't get along. You're gonna be able to put a couple of tablets on kickstands next to each other. If they fall over, it's probably no big deal, right? And if you get a big monitor, get like a mini PC. Like if you get like a 40-inch TV or something like that, and those are getting to be pretty cheap nowadays. Get a mini PC, put that on the back, plug HDMI into it, and then with the remote keyboard and mouse, and that'll make a giant screen. That'll look awesome in your pits, and everybody will be super jealous. We have quad 27-inch touchscreens that we got quite a while ago. We got some mini PCs that hang on the back of it. The monitors have touch input, so they just do mouse emulation, so it's just all self-contained. Does the touchscreen very well, so that ends up being a great demo setup. Don't forget the track grime. Yeah, it's just a really hostile environment. You know, after you've been wrenching on the car, and then you go to you just, like, if you have a laptop at the track, you don't want your nice one, right? But then everybody just brings the one that they always use. So that's just what happens. Mike Mahan says, excited to try it. All seems to work good and prep in the garage, but always some issue at the track. Yep, that's what happens, you know. So yeah, we've had some. Speaking of prep, we've had a few events at racetracks where the Friday night we're like hacking on firmware and trying to get some bug fixed at the hotel room. You know, like it's kind of the variation of trying to get the car working before the race on Friday night. You'd really want to be sleeping or drinking beer or eating dinner, but instead you're just working on trying to get something fixed or running. Yeah, so Jason, it's going to be awesome for your spotters. Yeah, you'll be able to pull your phone out, stand at any corner, and just watch the telemetry data. And there's all sorts of things you can do. You know, like look at data. We don't have the pit to car alerts integrated with it yet. We have to kind of like rip the Band-Aid off eventually, right? And just get this thing out into public beta. But imagine like standing at one of the corners and sending a pit to car alert to the driver or whatever it might be. It'll be pretty cool to have that flexibility. Oh, let's see. Let me see if I can find all the comments, because sometimes that happens. Nice. All right. Well, let me see. I think I'm going to go over my notes one more time. Yeah, we could talk a little bit about what's coming up at, once we do the public beta, and then we'll continue with just adding feature after feature. So we have the first time setup is going to get refined when you install the app. You're presented with a kind of a terse login page, but we will have a little bit better experience. Kind of some of the issues right now, if you have if you're comparing laps and the units are backwards, let's say session 1, you know, like Bob from Canada like looks at their data in the same way, you know, like kilometers and, you know, instead of miles per hour, and you might be comparing data and the data doesn't line up. You'll be able to kind of set a universal convert everything to either these units or that or some other units, so you can kind of normalize that in the view, so you can kind of compare apples to apples. Another thing we're going to add is we're going to add the pit to car alerts in here, so that you can send alerts from the app. That's coming after the open beta. Another thing we're going to add is the lap aggregates that you can see in the web view. So you'll see it'll be a dashboard view that will have all of the min-max and averages for each channel for all the laps in a session, and then you'll be able to go in and kind of select. It'll highlight, you know, the outliers, like the laps with the highest maxes or the lowest lows for each channel, and be able to select those and pop those laps into the view. We're also going to refine this laps view a bit. With endurance racing, you know, you can get into like 300 laps, and that can get a little bit visually unmanageable. So what we'll have is by default it will show like the top 20 laps, and then with a button to pop up a view that lets you select from all the remaining laps for that session. So that list will be visually a bit more manageable. Oh, and we'll have more visualization widgets, refinements to the existing ones, adding labels. So on a desktop, we're going to have, you're going to need legends, of course, for like the X and Y axis. And right now you can see all the information with mousing over, but you're not on the phone interface. You don't have a lot of real estate, so you won't get those by default. So that's like one example of how we're going to make it work well on a desktop while still being accessible on a phone. Yeah, multiple car view. Yeah, you might have missed that earlier in the oh, I think maybe you're talking about seeing multiple live streams at the same time. Yeah, when you go to the event, so this is the event screen. So imagine you're at the next AER Lucky Dog race and you're sitting on this event on the event screen. What you'll see is the track map will be more prominent, and then you'll see a swirl of dots moving around the track. So this will be kind of like the race preview, and then you can dig into individual dashboards. So when the event is live, then you'll see this being more prominent, and that'll be kind of like a cool overview of what the event is, what's happening at the event. Oh, let's see. Let me look at the list. Yep. So yeah, I think we're at the point where we could do an open beta. As you know, if you've used the Podium interface already, this is like light years ahead of what you can do right now, and it really like unlocks the capabilities of the system. And this is just all brand new interface, works with all the existing Race Capture and Podium Connect products. It's as you know, it's just data over time. Time series data for motorsports. All of the data is already in Podium. This is just a new interface that blows the lid off of what we've had before. So we are super excited to get this out to you. I think it's stable enough for you to use, and you always have the backup web interface if you need it. And we're excited and relieved to get this out to you. So let's see, we're at 48 minutes. Thank you for watching our live stream, and we'll get this uploaded to YouTube as well with a little bit of formatting, and now we'll be able to talk about all the other features incrementally and go from there. All right, thanks everybody. Oh, we got one more question. Any updates on cascaded delete of a device ID on Podium? I think right now if you delete a device, it will delete all of the data associated with that device, and we probably don't want to do that. I think what we're going to do on Podium is block you from deleting a device until all events for that device are removed. So it would basically have to force you to do a lot of work to remove a device, so that you don't do that cascade delete. So yeah, that's something not related to the Podium app, but just something on the back end that we need to do to prevent accidental deletion of all your stuff. So yeah, we don't want to do that. All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching, and we will catch you next time. Watch the Autosport Labs community for a link to, we're going to change the Podium app beta testing group from secret to closed, and we'll post a link to that, and whoever wants to join and test it will be welcome to do so, and it will be a big party. You'll find lots of bugs, and hopefully it'll provide lots of value. All right, thanks again.